Welcome, friend. I'm Jack, host of the channel, and today we're diving into another episode. Pour yourself a drink and get comfortable, because I've got a powerful story coming your way. If something hits deep, drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get into it.
Two attractive women were dining on the terrace of a restaurant, attracting glances from passers-by, but they were too engrossed in their conversation to notice. "How long has it been?" Amanda asked, a tall, dark-haired woman named Danielle. "It feels like I haven't seen you in months." The second woman, Emily, was blonde and a year or two younger than her friend. "I know, Danielle, and I feel bad about it. Between law school and family life, it's been hard to find time for anything else. How are your studies at financial management school going? You must be close to completing your degree." "Yes, almost everything is ready. We have winter break next week, and then only a few weeks of classes left before I get my diploma. I've already submitted my final project, so I don't have to worry about that. Even better, it looks like I'll be exempt from all exams, so everything should be smooth." "That's wonderful, Danielle. Congratulations. Do you already have a job lined up?" "No, I've been really busy the last 2 years, so I'm planning on taking a little break before entering the job market. I want to relax and have some fun before I get back to work. But enough about me. How are you doing? Is there a special man in your life?" "I'm doing well, but I'm still looking for the right guy." Emily looked at her brunette friend with an appraising glance. "With your looks, I wouldn't rush to settle down. I bet you could go out with different guys every night if you wanted to." Danielle gave her friend a sarcastic smile. "Believe me, Amanda, living alone these days isn't all it's cracked up to be. To find one decent guy, you have to go through a dozen jerks, and frankly, it starts to get boring. To tell you the truth, I'm a little jealous of you being happily married to such a wonderful guy like David. Speaking of David, how is your handsome husband doing?" "I think he's fine." "Oh, I think I just heard a discouraging word. What's the matter, Amanda? Isn't everything good between you?" The blonde shook her head. "It's not that we have problems. It's just that David is so busy with his company that we have little time to spend together. And even when we do, we don't have much money to spend on entertainment. Well, he spends all his time on his business to build a future for the two of us. As for money, I get that law school isn't cheap." "I know, and I appreciate it, but sometimes I just want to go out and have fun like I used to in college. All my classmates talk about is going to parties and meeting people in bars. Meanwhile, I'm sitting at home watching old movies." The dark-haired woman looked shrewdly at her friend. Is there anyone in particular at school that you would like to go to a party with?" Amanda laughed. "You always knew how to read me too well." She then leaned forward to avoid being overheard. "Actually, there is one guy, Robert. He's very nice." She blushed. "And he definitely likes me too. Every time we're together, he goes out of his way to say something really, really sweet about how good I look and how well I'm doing in school." Danielle shook her head. "I don't think David will be very happy to hear about this. It's just harmless flirting. It doesn't mean anything. But you're right, David is pretty old-fashioned about this sort of thing. That's why I'm not going to tell him." She shifted in her chair. "But I can't help but remember how everything was before I got married. It was so much fun meeting different guys. I miss it." "You need to be careful, Amanda. You have a very good husband, and you shouldn't risk losing him. You know David will never tolerate it if he catches you fooling around. And if you ever did, I'm willing to bet there are plenty of other women who would be more than happy to comfort him afterward." I know, and honestly, I want to spend my whole life with him, start a family, and all that. I just wanted to have a little fun before things get too serious." She lowered her voice and leaned closer again. "Speaking of Robert, he asked me to go to New Orleans with him for fall break. If there was some way to do this without David finding out, I'd probably agree." She leaned back and laughed dismissively. "But this is just a fantasy. It will never happen." Danielle sat down and looked at Amanda for a long time. Finally, she nodded her head as if she had made a decision. "Don't be so sure. I know how you can do this and get away with it." Amanda let out a sigh that was equal parts disbelief and delight. "Are you kidding? How? Are you sure you want to risk your marriage just for a week-long fling? If I could be sure that David would never find out, Then why not? But you're just teasing me, Danielle. There's no way I could get away with something like that. Yes, and in fact, it's quite simple. Danielle began to tick off each step on her fingers. First, you need to create a new mailbox on Gmail under some anonymous name, something like secretfan123. Then, use this account to send David an anonymous letter warning him that his wife is having an affair. Will I tell him that I'm having an affair? This is crazy. Why would I do this? Danielle continued calmly. More precisely, you would write that Amanda is having an affair with someone whom David does not know and cannot easily verify. And what will this give? It'll take his attention away from your hot guy from school. Yes, but it will make David suspicious of me. Exactly. But when he fails to find the guy you're supposed to be having an affair with, he'll have no choice but to confront you and demand to know what's going on. But I don't want him to suspect me. No, you don't want to. So when he confronts you, you will be very angry with him for not trusting you. In fact, you'll get so angry that you'll call time out on your marriage. Doesn't your mom live in California? Amanda was taken by surprise by the sudden change. Yes, why? Great. Angrily, you tell David that you're going to California for fall break to be with your mother and figure out what to do with your marriage. Then, while he's here in town, desperately trying to find the mystery man, you're in California with Robert, having your own little fun. How will I explain all this to my mother? Danielle rolled her eyes. You shouldn't. In fact, you shouldn't even see your mother while you're there. But what if David calls her? Tell him not to do it. Make it clear that you need a complete break to sort things out. He shouldn't try to contact you or your mother while you're away. Warn him that if he tries, you might not come home at all. Amanda stared at her friend for a moment, contemplating her plan. Finally, her face brightened. You know, Danielle, I can see how this could work, but what will happen when I return? It's simple. By then, David will miss you like crazy. And since he can't find the mysterious man who is supposedly having an affair with you, he will come to the conclusion that someone is playing a prank on him. He will feel very guilty and will beg you to forgive him for not trusting you. You will forgive him, and everything will be fine. You'll have fun, and then you and David will be together again, closer than ever. What about the mysterious man I'm supposed to be having an affair with? Maybe I should just come up with a name for him. You can, but I think it will be much more believable if it is a real person. Choose someone you can't have an affair with, like someone very old, living far away, or dead. That way, if David manages to track him down, you'll be safe. Hey, I think I know the perfect guy. I had a creepy professor in one of my classes during my first year of school. He must have left town because I never saw him again. How do you like it? Perfect. Danielle suddenly reached across the table and squeezed her friend's hand. You are the best, Danielle. I'm so excited. I really think it's going to work. Then she hugged herself and trembled slightly. I can't wait to tell Robert. David returned to his office and sat down in his second-hand swivel chair. He rubbed his forehead worriedly. If these parts don't arrive soon, we will miss the deadline for the delivery of the prototype. After the foreman left, David sat trying to come up with a backup plan when his email dinged. He quickly turned to check his inbox, hoping for good news, but when he saw that the subject of the letter was "About your wife," he almost deleted it. But curiosity got the better of him, and he opened the message. I hate to tell you this, but Amanda is having a romance with Professor Jameson. I just thought you should know. Secretfan123. What the heck? Stunned, David reread the message, unable to comprehend the terrible words. What nonsense is this? It can't be true. Amanda wouldn't cheat on me. Someone must be trying to stir up trouble between us. But who would do this and why? He started to delete the message but hesitated. That's the last thing I need to deal with right now. This must be a mistake, a misunderstanding. But his practical side didn't allow him to ignore it. Damn it, of course it can't be true. Angrily, he pressed the reply button on the email. Who are you? Why are you making such a terrible accusation? What evidence do you have? He pressed send and then stared at the screen in frustration. This won't lead to anything good. It's unknown when or if this guy will answer, and there's no way to track it. It's probably best to start finding out who this Jameson guy is. He opened a browser, went to the university's webpage, and searched for the School of Business department. Professor Jameson was not on staff. He returned to the faculty register and began searching throughout the university and again was unlucky. Frustrated, he tried looking at other educational institutions in the area, but to no avail. "This is madness," he muttered to himself. "Did Secret Fan 123 just make up a name?" He then tried a Google search, and the search engine quickly returned 5 names, but 2 of them were female, and none were local. I knew it was fake. Someone is trying to prank me or drive me crazy. But again, he could not bring himself to delete the letter. Now that the letter had been sent, a seed of doubt began to grow in his mind. God, what if she's having an affair? I didn't see any signs, but that doesn't mean anything. Besides, I was so busy at work that I hardly spent any time with her. What if she was upset because she was being ignored? I remember that there were times when she wanted to go somewhere for fun, and I refused her. But damn, I'm working almost 70 hours a week trying to get the business going. Doesn't she understand this? Can't she see that I'm doing all this for us? And to be honest, we really can't afford anything extravagant. Her school tuition is getting more expensive every year, and I'm pouring whatever is left into this place to try to speed up the process. And yet, I guess I neglected her. Feeling guilty, he started checking his calendar, trying to find the last time they spent any quality time together. After scrolling through 3 months and finding nothing, he stopped searching. Damn. But even as his guilt increased, he felt a corresponding surge of anger. I may not have given Amanda as much attention as she wanted, but that doesn't give her the right to cheat on me. We also discussed what sacrifices we would have to make when we decided to start the business. She agreed 100%, so she hardly has any right to complain now. His thoughts were interrupted when his foreman poked his head through the doorway. "Hey, David, good news. The components we need have just arrived. God bless." "Okay, we need to unpack them and get them to the workshop as soon as possible." When the foreman disappeared, David took a deep breath. "Well, in any case, one crisis is averted," he smiled wryly. "I think this means I can spend more time taking care of my wife." After spending even more time searching the internet fruitlessly, he sat back and tried to think. If Amanda really is having an affair, then it simply has to be with someone from the university. Maybe Secret Fan 123 got the name wrong. Maybe the university just didn't put his name on their website. He returned to the university's webpage and found the phone number for the Human Resources Department. When the secretary answered his call, he asked if Professor Jameson was on the faculty. "Which faculty, please? I think it's the School of Business, but I'm not sure." There was a pause, and then the voice came back on the line. "I'm very sorry, sir, but we don't have a Professor Jameson in the School of Business." "What about other schools?" There was a sigh. "Please wait." This time, he had to wait longer. When the woman finally returned to the line, her manners had disappeared. "Sir, there is no Professor Jameson at the university." A thought struck him. Maybe he was an employee a year or 2 ago. "I can only confirm our current teaching staff. That is university policy, sir. Is there anything else I can help you with?" "No, you did your best," he said, trying not to sound too sarcastic. He tried again, calling the dean of the business school. He went back and forth with the administrative assistant, but in the end, he learned nothing more. By this time, David's head was throbbing. "I need a good drink," he muttered, hanging up in disgust. But this thought gave him an idea, and he picked up the phone again. "Hello, Danielle. This is David. Listen, any chance you could meet me after work at Colin's bar for a drink? I have a problem, and I really need your advice." "No, I wouldn't like to talk about this on the phone. Can I? Great. I'll meet you there at 6. Before leaving, he checked his email again. There were no more messages from Secret Fan 123. Entering Colin's bar, David noticed Danielle sitting at a table in a quiet corner. In front of her stood a glass of white wine and a mug of his favorite draft beer. He walked over and kissed her on the cheek. "Thank you for the beer and, more importantly, for coming tonight. I really needed to talk to you." When he sat down, she took a sip of wine and then looked at him for a long time. "Okay, David, tell me what's going on. Are there problems in your business?" Not knowing where to start, he stared at his mug for a moment and then said, "Do you happen to know Professor Jameson from the university?" She shook her head, puzzled. "Jameson? I've never heard of him, and what?" He sighed and handed her a printout of the email. "I received this today." She quickly scanned it, sighed, and read it again. Then she looked at him with sympathetic eyes. "Poor David. No wonder you didn't want to talk about it on the phone. What do you think about it?" "I don't know what to think, Danielle. I can't believe this is true, but I also don't want to bury my head in the sand and pretend everything is fine. I spent the whole day trying to track down this mysterious Jameson professor, but I ran into a brick wall at the university. Now, I don't know what to do. I can't afford to hire a private detective, and I don't have time to play detective myself. That's why I wanted to talk to you. You've been a good friend to Amanda and me for a long time. Please tell me what you think about it." She took another sip of wine and then reached out to give his hand a quick squeeze. "What you're really asking is, do I think she's having an affair? I cannot give you absolute certainty. On the one hand, I haven't seen or heard anything that would make me think she is unfaithful to you. On the other hand, I haven't seen her very often over the past few months." His face twisted in annoyance, and she hurried to continue. "You know as well as I do that there are people who like to stir things up, and it could be something like this. Or you may have business enemies who would like you to divert attention to the tensions in your marriage. There may be other scenarios that I haven't even thought about. What I do know is that you can't ignore it and hope it goes away. I know how much you believe in marital fidelity, and I know that any hint that your marriage has been broken will eat away at you. If you don't deal with this, then eventually doubt will kill your relationship with Amanda as effectively as the romance." He looked at her, haunted. "I understand that you're right, Danielle, but what can I do? In my opinion, you should show this damn thing to Amanda. She needs to know that someone has accused her of infidelity, and she deserves the opportunity to shed whatever light she has on it. After all, David, if someone made a similar accusation against you, you'd want to know, wouldn't you?" He sat silently for a minute, then nodded his head. "You're right. If I don't share this with Amanda, it will affect how I behave with her. Ultimately, this will tear us apart just as surely as if she actually cheated on me." He stood up and hugged the dark-haired woman. "Thanks for helping me think things through, Danielle. I don't know what I would do without you. You know how dear you both are to me, David. If I can help in any way, please let me know." He nodded gratefully and headed toward the door. She stood and looked after him. When he returned home, Amanda was already waiting for him. "Where have you been, David? I tried to call, but you didn't answer." He ignored her question. Taking her hand, he led her to the sofa and sat down next to her. "I have to show you something, Amanda, something that has really confused me." She sat down next to him, her face betraying her nervousness. He handed her the printout. "I received this by email today. Can you tell me anything about this?" She read it quickly, then, to his surprise, jumped up and started yelling. "Do you think I'm cheating on you? I don't believe this. You get some crap accusation from some anonymous friend, and you're ready to accuse me of adultery?" No, honey, I don't blame you for anything. If you don't blame me, then why did you show me these dirty lies?" She snatched the printout, crumpled it into a ball, and threw it at him. "You might as well plunge a knife into my heart. This hurts me so deeply. You trust someone who is too cowardly to even sign their name more than you trust your own wife." She grabbed her purse and headed to the front door. "I can't even look at you now. I'm leaving and don't know when I'll be back." With these words, she ran out, slamming the door behind her. A moment later, he heard the roar of her car's engine and then the screech of tires as she pulled out of their driveway. "Oh damn, I never expected this. Now I'm even worse off than before." He groaned, sinking back onto the sofa and clasping his head in his hands. As he sat there, David's first thoughts were defensive. Why was she so upset? She didn't even let me finish. I didn't accuse her of cheating. I just showed her what someone else wrote, that's all. But he knew the answer before he finished. If Amanda had given me that note, I probably would have exploded too. But what could I do? Act like everything was fine? Danielle was right. I can't just ignore the letter. It wouldn't be fair to Amanda or me. Even though he spent the rest of the evening going over the situation in his mind, David was no closer to figuring out what to do than when he started. He knew he and Amanda needed to talk, but he couldn't even decide what to tell her. All he knew for sure was that he wanted to bring his wife home and try to mend the relationship. Emotionally exhausted, David felt himself starting to get tired, but he was determined to stay up until Amanda returned. After another hour of waiting, he lay down on the sofa and soon fell asleep. Sometime after midnight, he was awakened by the sound of the door opening. As he stood up, Amanda walked into the living room and stared at him with her hands on her hips. "David, we really need to—" "I don't want to talk about this now," she interrupted him sharply. "You can stay the night on the couch, and we'll talk in the morning." Without waiting for an answer, she turned on her heel and headed down the hallway to their bedroom. Hearing the door slam, he groaned and lay back on the couch, hoping that sleep would return. It took a long time. David usually got up early to get to the office before everyone else, but even though his body clock woke him up at the usual time, he felt obligated not to leave until Amanda showed up so they could talk. He made coffee and sat down at his laptop to read the news while he waited. It was almost 8 a.m. when Amanda entered the kitchen. David was shocked to see her dragging a suitcase behind her. "Where are you going, Amanda? I thought we were going to—" Before he could finish, she raised her hand to stop him. "It was a terrible shock, David. This calls into question our entire marriage. I need to be alone to think about what happened. Fall break starts tomorrow, and I'm going to California to visit my mother." She pierced him with an angry look. "I plan to spend the whole week there and return to classes next Monday. While I'm gone, I don't want to hear a word from you. I need this time for myself. Don't call me. Don't call my mother. Don't call my mother's house. Do you understand?" He nodded helplessly. "I'm serious, David. If you try to call, I might not come home at all. Understood?" He nodded again. "Okay," she said, and walked out the door to her car, dragging her suitcase behind her. When she left, David sat in shock for several minutes. Finally, he returned to the bathroom to shave and change his clothes, then gloomily drove to work. When he got to the office, good news awaited him. His foreman took the lead in distributing the missing components to the appropriate stations on the model production line, and testing proceeded smoothly. "At least the business won't crash and burn today, unlike my marriage," David said to himself bitterly. In the afternoon, he was working on a spreadsheet when the phone rang. When he answered, he heard that Danielle was on the line. "I was worried and wanted to know how you were doing. How did it go last night with Amanda?" "Oh, well, it's a long, sad story," he said dejectedly. "Oh, that doesn't sound very good. Maybe we can get together to discuss this again over a drink." "That would be great, Danielle. Same place." Okay, before leaving, he checked his email again, but there was still nothing from Secret Fan 123. When he entered the bar, Danielle immediately noticed the dark circles under his eyes. "David, it looks like you didn't get much sleep last night. Tell me what happened." He took a long sip from his beer mug and began to talk about yesterday's confrontation and Amanda's departure this morning. Danielle looked at him with a mixture of sadness and guilt. "Oh, David, I feel so terrible. You followed my advice and it turned out to be completely wrong." "No, Danielle. I thought about it a lot and am convinced that it was the only thing I could do. Of course, I didn't expect Amanda to react so violently, but there was no way I could keep this letter to myself and pretend that nothing had happened. Now, I can only hope that she will cool down and we can discuss everything when she gets home." "You say that very nicely, David, but I still feel guilty about what happened. So what are you going to do for the rest of this week?" "I don't know, Danielle. If Amanda and I don't talk about what happened, I don't see any way to move forward. Maybe you'll wait a few days and then try calling her." "No, David, this is the only thing you shouldn't do. She already thinks that you don't trust her. If you try to contact her after she has directly told you not to, it will only prove to her that she was right." "Yes, I guess I understand that, but I feel so damn helpless. I don't know of a way to find out who sent the letter. The only thing I can do while she's gone is continue to try to figure out who this Professor Jameson is." "This makes a lot of sense. If you could find him, maybe he could fill in some of the blanks for you." Over the next few days, David repeatedly tried to unravel the mystery of the anonymous letter. Despite the lack of success, he was still convinced that Jameson was somehow connected to the university. Then he started brainstorming. Maybe the reason I can't find this guy is because he is a graduate and not a teacher. Well, I'm an alumnus too, so maybe alumni relations can help. When he called and identified himself as a graduate, David was immediately transferred to the development department. The guy who answered the phone wrote down all the necessary information about David's address, phone number, and email. He then asked how much David wanted to contribute to the alumni fund. No, I'm not calling to make a contribution. I'm trying to find Professor Jameson. I think he might be a graduate. The man made him wait while he checked several databases. Sorry, sir, but it seems we've never had a graduate with that name. Is that true? What about graduate schools? I checked them too. Perhaps he is not a graduate. Perhaps he simply studied for a year or two and then dropped out or transferred. The guy seemed to have lost interest. I'm afraid I can't help you. Our database contains only graduates. Is there anything else I can do for you? After David turned him down, he hung up and cursed in frustration. Damn it all! I managed to guarantee that I would be invited to the next alumni fundraising campaign. Having made no progress on the phone or online, he took an hour off the next day to visit the school. When he got there, it was almost empty. It's fall break, dumbass, David cursed to himself. But several people were still around, and he began to walk from one office to another, asking for information about Professor Jameson. Finally, the assistant dean met him face to face. Sir, I'm very sorry, but you will have to leave. If you do not comply, we will be forced to call campus security. David apologized and hurried away, more upset than ever. Returning to his office, he sat down heavily at his desk. After another futile check of his email, he dropped his head into his hands. What should I do now? At that moment, his work phone rang. When David answered, an unfamiliar voice asked, Are you the young man looking for Professor Jameson? When David confirmed that yes, the man continued, My name is Dr. Avery Stevens. I am a member of the school's faculty and may be able to help you. But first, let me ask you, why are you trying to find Professor Jameson? David was hesitant to discuss his situation with a stranger, but desperation took over, and he briefly told Dr. Stevens why he was looking for the missing professor. When he finished, the caller made a dismissive sound. It's clear I overheard your questions at school today, and the way you presented some of the questions made me wonder if there might be something similar. Anyway, I think I can reassure you, young man. 2 years ago, Jameson was an adjunct professor at the university. He was a capable teacher, but unfortunately, enrollment in his course was below our minimum requirements. His course was canceled, and his contract was not renewed. I see, said David. This means there's one more thing, Dr. Stevens continued. At the beginning of the current academic year, I received a message from Professor Jameson. He wrote to tell me that he had found a job at Cascade University in Washington. Is he in Washington? David asked in bewilderment. That's right, the professor confirmed. And there's something else you might want to know. In the same message, Professor Jameson informed me of his recent wedding to his longtime partner, Paul. Paul? Exactly, Dr. Stevens said. Thank you very much for your call. I still don't understand why someone sent me such a treacherous letter, but now I'm sure it was a lie. I was hoping I could calm you down, sir. May I ask one more question? Why did you decide to call me? Don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful, but I'm just a stranger to you. The professor's tone of voice changed. I don't mind telling you, young man. Many years ago, something very similar happened to me. My wife left me to run off with her lover, so I have deep sympathy for anyone who may find themselves in a similar situation. Fortunately, in this case, the warning you received turned out to be false, so I am glad that I was able to dispel your doubts. But as you can imagine, I have very strong feelings toward anyone who interferes in a marriage. If this statement were true, I would not hesitate to tell you. Thank you, sir. You have no idea how much I appreciate what you did. That evening, David called Danielle to tell her the good news. I still don't know who is trying to destroy my marriage, but now I know for sure that Amanda is not having an affair with Professor Jameson. Are you sure you can trust this Dr. Stevens? Absolutely. After the call, I looked him up and found him on the school's faculty. He is an elderly man, probably around 60, and appears to be well respected. But just to be sure, I also checked out Jameson on the Cascade University website. Of course, he was there. That's great, David. You must be extremely relieved. Yes, I am. But now my problem is what to tell Amanda when she gets home. It's easy, David. From what you told me about your confrontation with her, she never gave you a chance to talk. When she returns, tell her that you never had any doubts about her. Tell her that you already knew about Jameson, that you tracked him down as soon as you received the letter. But since she reacted so strongly, you didn't have a chance to tell her about it. If you play your cards right, David, she'll apologize to you. I don't know, Danielle. In fact, everything was not like that. He heard the smile in her voice. Come on, David. Is it really that bad to stretch the truth a little to get what you want? On Sunday, before returning to town, Amanda surprised Danielle with a phone call. Hey, girlfriend, I just wanted to check with you about how David is doing before I go home. I'm a little nervous about what I'll encounter when I arrive. The only thing I know for sure is that you owe me a huge debt for everything I did for you. While you were busy with your affair, with a little help from me and some luck, you will be able to return to your husband, and your marriage will be in better shape than ever. With that, she continued to describe the week, ending with David learning of Jameson's whereabouts. If you play your cards right when you get home, David will apologize to you. You will apologize to him, and everything in your life will go back to normal. There was a pause on the line. What if I don't want everything to go back to normal? I didn't understand, Amanda. What do you mean? Just last week, I had an amazing time. Robert, the guy I was with, is so funny. Amanda's voice became a little hoarse, and most importantly, he is a fantastic guy. I haven't felt such excitement in years. In any case, I'm not ready for my little adventure to end yet. I want to continue seeing him, at least until the end of the semester. Come on, Danielle. You have to help me find a way to make it work. Stop, Amanda. You're already taking a big risk by leaving with this guy for a week. If you try to keep the affair alive here in town, you're really upping the stakes, girl. Maybe, but you have to admit your little plan worked perfectly. I bet you can figure out how I can do this again. Come on, Danielle. Please, this guy is really something. I was afraid that something like this might happen. There was a long pause. Okay, Danielle said slowly. I can come up with a plan to do what you want, but you have to understand that you will jeopardize your marriage to David. He's a good guy, Amanda. He's hardworking, loyal, and a true family man. Men like him don't come along every day. Are you sure you want to risk it all for a little fling? Amanda chuckled. You turned me on with the phrase, I can come up with a plan. Oh, okay, but don't say I didn't warn you. Danielle sighed, resigned. Now here's what you need to do. Do you still have that email account you created? Of course you told me to keep it active. Good, because you need to send another letter from SecretFan13. Only this time you will send a message to yourself, to your regular email. Okay, then what will be in the new letter? Everything is exactly the same as in the previous one, only this time you write that David is having an affair with me. What? But that's not true and David knows it. How can this help? It's simple. The first letter accused you of having an affair. David has discovered that you couldn't have been unfaithful with Professor Jameson, but he may still have doubts about your fidelity. Wait, Danielle, didn't you tell me that a letter with Jameson would give me freedom in my relationship with Robert? So it was. But now, after he receives the second letter, he will have no doubts. He's already proven that you weren't having an affair with Jameson, and he knows for sure that he's not having an affair with me. Obviously, SecretFan123 is a complete liar, which means David has no reason to doubt you anymore. This means that you can get away with almost anything you want without arousing David's suspicion. There was silence on the line. Amanda then exclaimed, Danielle, you are a genius. I don't know how you came up with all this, but you just gave me a hall pass that I can use for the rest of the semester. There are 2 more things you need to do, Amanda. First, make sure David tells me about the second letter. Okay, but why? Because this way I can reinforce the idea that you are trustworthy and this unknown friend is not. Oh, that's good. He really trusts you, so he will listen to your advice. Now what else? After you send the message to yourself, remember to log out of your secret fan 123 email account. What if David accidentally finds it? Oh God, no. In fact, you should probably sign out of both of your email accounts when you're not using them. You don't want David to find love notes from Robert, do you? I warned Robert never to email me, but this is still good advice. Better safe than sorry. Returning home from work that evening, David was alarmed to find Amanda crying. Things had been going so well between them since she returned from California that the sight of her upset face took him by surprise. "What's wrong, Amanda? What happened?" he asked, rushing toward her. "Oh, David, it's all starting again," she said with tears in her eyes, handing him a copy of the letter. "Son of a," he swore after reading the accusatory message. "You know that's a lie, don't you?" "Certainly, David. I know that you will never cheat on me, just as I will never cheat on you. And even if you cheated, I know it would never happen with Danielle. She is such a good friend to both of us that she would never do anything like that." "Damn it! Someone is still trying to cause trouble for us, and I have no idea who or why. There must be some way to track these things." She looked up at him hesitantly. "Are you going to tell Danielle about this? Do you think you should?" "I think you should. Whether you like it or not, she's involved now. It would be unfair to her not to tell her about this." The next morning when David called, Danielle answered in a friendly manner. "Well, how are the two lovebirds doing today?" David's tone was solemn. "We're doing well, Danielle, but there's something new that I need to talk to you about. Can you meet after work?" "Actually, I plan to work from home after lunch. Could you come to my house?" "Okay, good. I'll come between 6:30 and 7. Opening the door to her apartment in the evening, Danielle immediately noticed the solemn expression on David's face. "What's the matter, David? I've been worried since you called." He shook his head. "I'm really sorry, Danielle, but it looks like you got caught up in this whole thing with Amanda and me." When she looked at him in confusion, he handed her a copy of the last letter. After reading it, she looked at David in despair. "But that's crazy. We don't have an affair. I would never do that to Amanda. I hope she knows that." He nodded. "She knows. In fact, she told me the same thing." Danielle shook her head in confusion. "Glad to hear that, but what do you think this all means?" "I think this means that someone is very keen to stir up trouble between Amanda and me. First, a warning about Professor Jameson. Now this. The only thing I can think of is that I have an enemy, perhaps a business competitor, but I have no idea who it could be. But anyway, since it now seems to concern you, Amanda and I decided we should warn you about it." She nodded. "I'm glad you did, David. You are always so caring, but I don't know what we can do about it. Unless the mystery person does something overtly or makes a mistake, I don't think calling the police will do any good." "I agree with that, Danielle, but it's so frustrating. I'm tired of all this confusion, and I just want whoever it is to leave us all alone." "How does Amanda perceive this?" "She is very upset. When I came home, she was in tears. I'm not surprised, especially after the ordeal the first one caused. Look, David, I think Amanda is pretty fragile right now. Between all of this and the fact that she's so close to finishing her degree, I guess she's a bundle of nerves. You must take care of her as much as possible. Do you think we should both just block all mail from this account? This may turn out to be a mistake. If they send anything else, I think you'll want to know about it." "Yes, you're right, but how can I protect Amanda? For starters, if you get another one of those damn letters, I wouldn't tell her about it, at least not right away. For that matter, I think you should check her email on your laptop every chance you get. If she receives another letter, you can forward it to your email before she sees it. This way, you don't have to interfere with her." "Yes, I think that's a good idea." He got up. "I'm really sorry you had to be dragged into all this. If this is supposed to be an apology, then I don't need one. You are very dear to me, and I will do everything to help." He smiled gratefully. "I'd better go home to see how Amanda is doing." He started to walk away, then turned, hugged Danielle, and kissed her on the cheek. "Thank you for being such a good friend. Having you by our side through all of this means a lot to me." When David returned home, he was pleasantly surprised to find Amanda in a much happier mood. The next morning, she was even more cheerful and got up early to have breakfast with her husband. "This is a real treat, Amanda. I don't see you that often before I go to work." "Well, I didn't want you to leave this morning without being able to say I love you," she told him, kissing him. "By the way," she added, "I wanted to be sure to let you know that I'm going to a lecture on campus this evening. A few girls and I are going to grab something to eat after this, so we'll probably get home pretty late." "Of course, Amanda. Everything is fine. We have a lot of leftovers in the fridge, so I can grab a snack here." "Thank you, darling. We'll probably come home after school to drop off my school things and change clothes. If we don't see each other, have a good evening." Knowing that Amanda wouldn't be home, David stayed late at the office for a change. Business was starting to pick up. A large potential client really liked samples of the new product, and David hoped they would place a trial order. At least something is becoming clearer. Now I just need to get to the bottom of who is playing email games with Amanda and me. He was still thinking about the mysterious secret fan 123 when he entered the house. As he started to walk into the bedroom, he noticed Amanda's laptop sitting on the table. I don't think she needed it for the lecture. Then he remembered Danielle's proposal. I wonder if she still checks her email. If so, then we need to check if she received anything new from this bastard. The laptop came to life when he opened the case. The email page wasn't open, so he clicked on the Gmail link to see if it was registered. When he did this, a window opened asking him to select an account. He saw Amanda's email, but it had been unsubscribed, so he started closing Gmail. Before he had time to do this, he noticed a second account under her regular mail, and when he looked at it more closely, he froze in bewilderment. The name of the account was secretfan123. "What the hell?" he exploded, staring at it. He tried to open it, but Google asked for a password. Not knowing the password, he closed the tab, then sank into his chair, trying to comprehend what he had just seen. How could she have an email account with that name? I know that Gmail doesn't allow two users to have the same address, but that means Amanda was the one sending those letters. Why would she do this? Why would she send me an anonymous letter in which she accuses herself of having an affair? Only after a moment did the answer reach him. It must have been a distraction. She wanted me to chase some professor in Washington because she was having an affair with someone else. Then another thought hit him like a punch to the stomach. Her trip to California. When I showed her the letter, she pretended to be very upset with me. She told me that she was going to visit her mother, that she needed time away from me. Now I wonder if she even saw her mother. He quickly took out his mobile phone and pressed his mother-in-law's number. When the elderly woman answered, he spoke politely for a minute and then said, "Tell me, Amanda and I were thinking of coming to visit next month. Will it be too soon to see us again?" "Too early. I haven't seen you for ages. Please come when you can." He ground his teeth in anger. "Good. Excellent. We will contact you when we have decided on a date." Having said goodbye, he broke the connection and cursed. What a liar. I wonder where Amanda actually went, and more importantly, I wonder who she went with. Then he remembered the last letter, the same one that Amanda received. What was this for? Damn, this must be just another distraction to take my mind off of her while she goes to lectures with her girlfriends. What a vile, lying woman. It made him wonder what she wore when she went out for the evening. He hurried back to the bedroom and began sorting through his wife's underwear. It was difficult for him to remember everything about Amanda, and he had almost given up. But a sudden suspicion gripped him, and he returned to check one more item, a garter belt. It was absent. Angrily, he looked for a suitable bra and panties, but they were gone too. Went out for dinner with some girlfriends, huh? He put everything back and returned to the kitchen table to think. So you love sabotage and deception. Well, two can play this game. When Amanda returned home after midnight, he was still seething but pretended to be asleep when she tiptoed into the bedroom. When he heard the shower turn on, he did everything he could not to stand up and confront her. Who would have thought that going to lectures would be such a sweaty job, he thought bitterly. The next morning, David got up very early and left for work before Amanda even woke up. Next to the coffee pot, he left a note for his wife. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's lecture. I had to leave early for a meeting at work, and I might be late today, so don't wait for me. For David, it was indeed a busy day, but his meetings were not with clients or suppliers. During lunch, he did a little shopping, and then headed home with some of his purchases to do a few preparations. After that, he went to 2 more meetings, which took up the entire afternoon. When he finished, he went to dinner and a movie to kill time. Amanda was already asleep when he climbed into bed, trying not to wake her. However, when she woke up the next morning, she found her husband waiting for her. "I thought you had left for work a long time ago, honey," she said, gratefully accepting the cup of coffee he handed her. "I wanted to make sure to see you this morning, because I have a flight to Detroit at noon. I'll be out for a few days generating leads. This is something new. You don't have to travel so often. So when do you think you'll be back?" "Not until Friday evening, and if everything goes well, I can only leave there on Saturday morning. Can you cope here while I'm gone?" She gave him a bright smile. "Don't worry about me. I'm sure I can find something to do while you're gone." "Fine. Just remember to stay away from our good friend while I'm gone." Her face darkened. "It's not funny, David." "Sorry, you're right, it's not funny." He then waved his hand at her, picked up his suitcase, and headed toward the car. He frowned as he pulled out of the driveway. "She didn't even notice that I didn't say I love you. I bet she's already making plans to meet her lover again. Now, I just need a little distraction to make sure her meeting takes place here at home." Instead of going to the airport, David left his office at lunchtime and went to the university parking lot off campus. He walked briskly toward the School of Business. He had shed his usual sports jacket and slacks and was now wearing jeans and a sweatshirt. He had a cheap backpack slung over his shoulder. Without raising his head, he headed to the reading room of the business school library. The few students there did not pay any attention to him as he casually walked behind the rack of periodicals. Once he was out of sight, he pulled out a string of the largest firecrackers he could buy, lit the extra-long fuse attached to them, and tossed them into a metal container for disposal. He then casually walked to the nearest door, propped it open with his backpack, and walked out. Once outside, he took out the phone he had purchased the day before and called campus security. "Come quickly. They're shooting at the business school," he shouted excitedly when his call was answered. "I think there may be several of them. They're still shooting." He then turned the receiver toward the library, and within seconds, a series of fireworks began. He cut the connection and hurried across campus to his car as sirens blared and people began running in all directions. He was parked in his neighborhood and watching from his spot when, an hour later, he saw his wife's car pull into their driveway. Then a second car pulled up behind her, and a male figure appeared. "In times of danger, there is no place like home," David muttered, grinning sadly. He then got into his car and drove to the motel where he had booked a room. Late that evening, he drove around his neighborhood one more time to make sure the second car was still in his driveway. Then he returned to his room and tried to get some sleep. When the adulterous couple left the house the next morning, they were surprised to find David leaning against the stranger's car door. "God, Robert, this is my husband!" Amanda gasped when she recognized him. "I thought you were in Detroit," she stammered, and then caught herself, realizing how it sounded. "Darling, everything is not as it seems. Robert just came by to—" "Just stop, Amanda. Every time you open your mouth, you are only lying. I don't want to hear it anymore." He bared his teeth and gestured at the two of them. "That's exactly what it sounds like. I know you both spent the night here, and I have a record of everything you said and did together. So stop talking and listen." He grabbed the manila envelope tucked under his arm and handed it to her. "I am filing for divorce on the grounds of adultery. Inside, you will find the name and number of my lawyer. Find yourself a lawyer and ask him to contact mine. But don't try to contact me because after what you did, I don't intend to see or talk to you anymore." "No, honey, don't say that. It was just a one-time mistake. We can work things out, I promise." "I said stop lying," he growled. "This is not a one-time incident. You have been having fun with him for several weeks, and it definitely wasn't a mistake. You planned everything in advance. I know you sent that letter as a distraction so you could spend fall break together wherever you went. And by the way, your mom wants to know why you haven't visited her lately. I guess you were so wrapped up in that piece of crap," he gestured at the sullen man, "that you didn't even go see her." He paused to turn his attention to Amanda's lover. "Oh yes, that reminds me." David quickly took out his cell phone and snapped several pictures of the shocked man. When Robert realized what was happening, he growled, clenched his fists, and took a threatening step toward David. David immediately reached into his jacket pocket and extended his hand far enough to show the handle of the gun. Oh, he said calmly. "I wouldn't do this if I were you. I have no intent of ruining my life by killing you, but I will be glad if you give me a chance to shoot you in self-defense." Stop! Robert raised his hands and took a step back. David turned to Amanda with a grin. "Looks like your boyfriend is a lover, not a fighter." Then his voice became cold and hard. "Take everything you need from the house and then get out, Amanda. Don't be here when I get back. I wasn't kidding when I said I never wanted to see you again." "David, please," she wailed. "I never wanted it to be this way." He ignored her and walked to his car as she sat down on the driveway and began sobbing into her hands. On the way to his office, David stopped at a dumpster and threw away his phone, along with the toy gun he had been keeping in his pocket. "I'm very glad that these things look so realistic," he grinned mercilessly. Returning to his desk, David used his cell phone to send an email containing one of the photos he had taken. To his surprise, he received a call back a few minutes later. "This is Dr. Stevens. Did you just email me a photo?" "Dr. Stevens, forgive me for intruding on you again, but do you happen to recognize the man in the photograph? I think his name is Robert. Is the woman standing next to him your wife?" "I'm afraid my ex-wife. Very beautiful woman. I think she was in one of my classes last year. As for the man next to her, I actually recognize him. His name is Robert Chambers. It so happens that he is one of my dissertation students." "Robert Chambers. Good to hear, doctor. I'm afraid I have a score to settle with your Mr. Chambers." "So he was the serpent who stained your Garden of Eden?" "Yes, in a way, but I'm afraid that my Eve was far from innocent." "I understand. Very interesting. Well, I'm glad I was able to help you, although I'm sorry the result wasn't what you wanted." "Thank you, doctor. I appreciate your time and your help despite how things turned out." "Well, good luck to you, my boy. And don't worry, everything always works out for the better. Take it from someone who has been there and made it to the other side." 2 months later, David sat opposite his lawyer, feeling frustrated. "Have you heard anything from Amanda's lawyer yet? How are things going with the divorce?" "Yes, yesterday I spoke with Mark Perkins, and today he sent a counteroffer to Amanda. The good news is that Amanda has decided not to fight the divorce anymore. Apparently, after Mark heard the recordings you made in your home, he convinced your wife not to risk having them played in court. But the bad news is that now that Amanda has accepted that the marriage is over, she seems intent on getting as much out of you financially as possible." "Crap. She lies and deceives me, and when she gets caught, she expects me to pay her for the privilege. It's just not fair. What does my cheating wife want?" "I usually expect to see a request for the division of all your property, but in this case, there is nothing to divide. You rent, you don't have a pension plan, and you have very little savings. The only asset you have is a share in your business, which is operating at a loss. Apparently, she expects it to fail, so she's only asking the court for alimony." "I certainly appreciate her vote of confidence in me," David snapped sarcastically. "So how much alimony does she want?" "Much more than we offered." The lawyer handed the sheet to his client. David looked at it and gasped. "This is ridiculous. She knows I can't afford it. If I have to shell out that much money every month, I'm essentially liquidating my business to pay her." "What can I say? Amanda refuses to negotiate, so Mark will propose just that to Judge Franklin." "Well, I'm not going to give up and give Amanda that much money without a fight. We'll have to take our chances in court." "Okay, David, I understand what you're getting at, but remember, Judge Franklin has absolute power. You are left with whatever he decides." Almost exactly a month later, David sat in the courtroom and waited anxiously. After both lawyers presented their arguments, Judge Franklin adjourned. "How do you think things are going?" David asked his lawyer in a whisper. I have no idea. It could go either way, or the judge could decide on some kind of compromise. They were soon ordered to stand as Judge Franklin returned to the courtroom. When they were seated again, the judge asked opposing counsel to come to the bench. I assume your clients have not changed their position on the financial settlement? The two lawyers exchanged glances. No, Your Honor. Very good. Before I make my decision, I would like to ask Mrs. Baker a few questions. Mark Perkins looked scared, but then smiled and motioned for Amanda to come forward. Everything will be fine, he whispered to his client. Don't forget to address him as Your Honor. David's lawyer took his seat and leaned toward him. It's usually not a good sign when the judge wants to hear more from the other side. David watched sourly as his soon-to-be ex-wife testified. The suit she wore was conservatively cut, but fitted enough to show off her figure. He noticed the judge was watching Amanda and shook his head. I think we're finished, he whispered to his lawyer. The judge scanned the papers in front of him and then turned to face the woman sitting in the witness box. So, Mrs. Baker, it appears that the only issue separating the two of you is the amount of alimony that should be awarded. Your offer involves an amount significantly higher than that which your husband has offered. That's right, Your Honor. And how do you justify the amount you proposed? We are asking that amount because I believe it reflects the lifestyle I have grown accustomed to during our marriage. Additionally, I need support to maintain my current standard of living while I transition to a new phase in my life, Amanda explained, trying to sound composed. Judge Franklin nodded thoughtfully. I understand. Mr. Baker, do you have anything to add to your argument? David stood up, trying to keep his voice steady. Your Honor, I've done my best to support Amanda during our marriage. I've worked long hours and sacrificed a lot to try to build a future for us. The amount she's asking for would essentially bankrupt me and destroy the business I'm working so hard to get off the ground. I think it's unreasonable, especially given the circumstances of our divorce. Judge Franklin leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Thank you, Mr. Baker. I've reviewed the evidence and considered the arguments from both sides. This is a difficult case because, on the one hand, Mrs. Baker deserves to maintain a reasonable standard of living. On the other hand, Mr. Baker's financial situation and the business's viability must also be considered. He paused for a moment, then continued. Based on the information provided, I find that the amount requested by Mrs. Baker is indeed excessive given Mr. Baker's current financial state. Therefore, I am ordering alimony payments of $800 per month for a period of 2 years. This should give Mrs. Baker enough time to adjust and find a more stable financial footing. Amanda's face twisted in anger, but she remained silent. David felt a wave of relief wash over him. It wasn't a perfect outcome, but it was something he could manage. Judge Franklin concluded, I believe this decision strikes a fair balance, given the circumstances. Court is adjourned. He banged the gavel, and the session was over. David's lawyer turned to him with a small smile. Not the best outcome, but definitely not the worst. You should be able to handle this. David nodded, shaking his lawyer's hand. Thank you. I appreciate everything you've done. As they walked out of the courtroom, Amanda approached David, her expression a mix of frustration and regret. David, please, can't we at least talk about this? He looked at her coldly. There's nothing left to talk about, Amanda. You've made your choices, and now we both have to live with the consequences. Goodbye. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, fuming and alone. For David, the future was uncertain, but he was determined to move forward and rebuild his life without the betrayal and deceit that had plagued his marriage. He knew it would be a long road, but he was ready to take the first step. Thanks for watching. What would you do if you discovered your spouse's secret affair and had to face them in court? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Thanks for hanging out with me on today's episode. Brother, I'm Jack, host of this podcast, and it's great having you here. If today's story hit home, send it on to a buddy who might need it. Remember, we're all in this together, turning life's curvy balls into wins. If you have an opinion or story to share, then drop a line in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out. Until next time, keep your chin up and keep pushing forward. Stay strong, folks.